So today we've come here to the NEC in Birmingham to the UK Metals Expo. It's the first exposition of its type, welcoming all the members of the metals industry across the UK. Tata Steel's got a presence here at the networking section, and a number of our people are speaking. Next door actually is the Recycling and Waste Management show, where we've also got a stand there, and Nicola Jones from our packaging recycling unit will be talking there. So we're going to go inside now and meet some of the people who are exhibiting here, try and meet some of the speakers from both Tata Steel, from partner organisations. I think UK Steel are here today, some of our customers are here today, and just talk to them a bit about the current state of the metals industry in the UK, but especially about decarbonisation, energy, government support, pressures from customers and markets, and see what they have to say, seeing as we're all in one place. So let's go in and see what they have to say. We've been wandering around the show a bit this morning to see all the exhibitors, and we've just come across the director of UK Steel, Gareth Stace. Gareth, you've just been speaking to the audience here about policy and UK Steel and the importance of policy in the new government. Tell us a bit about your highlights from today, what you've been telling the audience.
Well, we're in a unprecedented time, and everyone uses that word unprecedented all the time, but it really is in terms of the energy crisis that we're in. You know, we're in a position even today where many days it's not profitable to make steel. At the moment, the costs of energy are too high. That's only going to get worse. So we're really pleased that the new Prime Minister, 2 days into the job last Thursday, said yes, she's going to come out with a massive energy package. And our message to government is, use the time in terms of developing the details of that policy well, in terms of understanding the massive scale of what's needed, how quick it comes in, and then also understand that they need to be flexible, because it's all about for businesses, and steel sector in particular, to be internationally competitive. Doesn't matter if our competitors are paying £500 a megawatt hour and we're paying £500 a megawatt hour, that's fine. And so it's all about being competitive. So if we see European countries going further, going faster, then we want government to be fleet of foot and to go further and faster as well. That's the key message to government.
Yeah, but this is not a new story for the steel industry in the UK. This story about energy and the recent spike in prices has maybe brought it to the fore, but this is kind of inextricably linked with the challenge of decarbonisation, isn't it? And I know from the Tata Steel perspective, there's been some stuff in the news about Tata Steel asking the government for funding, but to make that technology transition, and British Steel will be in the same place and Telstra will be in the same place, other members of your organisation. But funding alone is not enough. It's a legislative framework that is equally important for us. Do you see the change of government being an opportunity after years of maybe banging our heads on a brick wall a bit?
Yes, certainly. Theoretically, this is quite an exciting time. A government that hopefully will have a vision of the country that the UK could be, or the economy that the UK could have. And I would hope that this Prime Minister and this Chancellor and this Business Secretary would clearly see the importance of steel within that as a foundation sector, and the importance of helping a sector, but not even really helping, working with a sector like steel to get from being as carbon intensive as we are now to net zero carbon in 2050. But we can only do that as a partnership, because if you think about it, the sheer cost of going from the way we make steel now to the way we might make steel in the future, to utilising new technologies like using hydrogen or carbon capture usage and storage, etc. Businesses can't do that on their own. They just can't, because the costs of production are going to increase, and therefore you're putting steel onto the market that's more expensive, and who's going to buy it? So when you talked about policy, we want to see the government saying, okay, by 2030, 2035, 2050, you in the UK, if you're going to buy steel, you can only buy steel that has zero carbon. I mean, in terms of emissions in its production. That then generates the market for us. It means we can stay competitive while making those steels that the market needs and the government wants us to make. And then there is an opportunity still, I think, for the UK to be a leader in net zero. But we need to remember, it is about even simply competitive energy prices, because every technology for the steel sector in the UK to move from where it is now to net zero involves using more electricity, not less, and therefore you don't even start on that journey if you can't compete on energy prices.
Yeah.
You can't even start that journey.
Yeah, and it's a debate. I think you and I shared a podcast some months ago, didn't we, to talk about these challenges, but since then I think things have significantly changed, and if you put yourself on the other side of the fence in the government's shoes, it's an incredibly difficult time for them to support industry with the cost of living crisis. The consumer's going to be putting pressure on them to say, help us out in terms of our food costs, in terms of our energy costs, in terms of our petrol costs, and to explain to the consumers that you want to spend billions of pounds potentially supporting industry. That's quite a difficult thing for a new government to do, surely.
So what's the alternative for the government to say, okay, steel, don't go on your journey to net zero as much as you want to, we're not going to help you on that, so don't do that. Surely that's not what government wants to do. The other alternative is for the UK government to say, stop making steel in the UK and we'll just import it. Import it from where? China? When 2 years ago China was exporting hardly any steel. So therefore, is that right that we would have to be looking on the open market to where we can get our steel from, what type of steel we can get, when we can get it, and then crucially what price we can get it at? And it's easy in the short term to think, that'll be fine, but actually long term, in terms of how we've seen the global market and global economies change, that would be very, very short-sighted going forward to do that and rely on imports of steel. And then also giving your responsibility to net zero over to foreign governments that we can't influence at all.
Nor their environmental policy. Now, some people might get the sense that the new government might be rowing back on its commitment to net zero, and some have denied that and some have said they hadn't. But actually, for the steel industry, some people might say, well, if the government rows back on net zero, you can extend your targets, you've got more time to make the technology change, or you can choose different technologies. But actually, the pressure on the steel industry isn't just coming from the government, it's coming from customers who are demanding it of us. And as a capital-intensive industry, Tata Steel, British Steel, Celsa, will have assets which have a finite life. And so there is time pressure on this, almost irrespective of what the government policy is. How do we impress that upon both the companies like ourselves and the government?
We're already seeing other players come into the UK market that can be selling, onto the UK market those steel grades that they can say are made from net zero, carbon sources, so to speak. And so again, it's does government have a vision, or is it a free for all? And if it's a free for all, then I'm afraid government, what we'll see is that, which we say over and over again to government over the years, a slow erosion of investment in the UK. The investment will go elsewhere, and then drip, drip, drip in terms of the steel sector becoming less important here in the UK than elsewhere, because all, bar one steel producer in the UK, they're all foreign owned, and therefore those investments, when those global boards are making those investment decisions, they're always looking for the best market to make those investments. And we need the UK government to be saying, well, we want the UK to be the best market to invest, and to encourage that finite investment from those global companies to come here and not elsewhere.
And your role, Gareth, is to speak on behalf of the industry at places like this and to government and so forth. Now, you look at this show, I think it's a new show, Metals Expo, for the industry, and it's not just steel, of course. And I can see lots of guys here from Tata Steel around us, and I know we've got lots of people at this and next door at Recycling and Waste Management. But as an influencer, are the right sorts of people here, or are you speaking to the converted, do you think?
Well, as you said to him, what we've got here is the whole range of people from the wider metal sector. I've met people from the copper sector, not just steel or not just aluminium or not just stainless steel here today. So it's useful to meet people that I normally wouldn't speak to. It's useful to see also some familiar and friendly faces, and it's very useful to see that Tata Steel, of course, has the biggest stand in this whole show. So that's very encouraging from a UK Steel point of view. Its biggest member has been the biggest presence here at this new Metals Expo that I hope, as you said, Tim, it's the first year we've done it. Let's hope we do it next year and the year after and the year after, and it grows. So I think it's a real success for an inaugural Metals Expo.